Right now, as you are watching this, 28 million people across the northeastern United States are under flood watches. An unusually strong summer storm that the National Weather Service is describing as a fall-strength system is crawling across New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, dumping what forecasters are calling a month's worth of rain in a matter of hours. Rainfall rates are hitting 2 to 3 inches per hour in some locations. Water rescues have already been triggered. Flash flood warnings are active across northeastern New Jersey and the lower Hudson Valley, and the storm is still moving. The greatest danger as of this morning is centered on western and central Massachusetts, southern Vermont, and northern Connecticut, where the NWS has issued a level 3 out of 4 risk for excessive rainfall. The Berkshires and the Worcester Hills could see 5 to 7 inches before this system clears. And this is not the first time the Northeast has flooded this month. It is not even close. 3 weeks ago, on July 6th, the same corridor was hit by flash flooding so intense that the roof of a wholesale warehouse club in Ocean Township, New Jersey, collapsed under the weight of pooling water while 27 people were shopping inside. 2 of them were temporarily trapped. Floodwaters in surrounding neighborhoods reached chest height. Over 155 homes lost power. Roads across 4 states were impassable. That July 6th event came the same day the region's deadly heat wave finally broke, as if the atmosphere was trading one emergency directly for another. And the pattern of repeated flash flooding striking the most densely populated corridor in the United States, in places that most people do not think of as flood zones, is not a fluke. It is a documented trend that has been accelerating for years and that the National Weather Service itself has flagged in the bluntest possible language. Flash floods are the #1 weather killer in America. Not hurricanes, not tornadoes, not heat, though heat killed at least 44 people across the eastern states during the July 4th heat wave. Flash flooding. If this kind of grounded, real-time breakdown is what you come here for, subscribe right now with notifications on. Let me walk you through why the Northeast specifically is becoming a flash flood corridor, and why the real danger is not the storms themselves, but where the water goes once it hits the ground. The mechanism behind what is happening this week, and what happened on July 6th, and what has been happening with increasing regularity across this region for the past several years, comes down to a collision between 2 things. The first is atmospheric. Storms in the Northeast are producing more rainfall per hour than they historically did. This is not a vague claim. It is a measured trend. Warmer air holds more moisture. For every degree Celsius of warming, the atmosphere can hold roughly 7% more water vapor. When that moisture-laden air is wrung out by a storm system, the rainfall rates are higher than what the same type of storm would have produced 30 or 40 years ago. The system currently sitting over the Northeast is being described by Gizmodo as a fall-strength storm arriving in the middle of July, an unusually deep upper-level low that is behaving like a system you would expect in October rather than late July. It is moving slowly, which means it is dumping rain over the same areas for hours rather than passing through quickly, and it is pulling moisture from a warm Atlantic Ocean, feeding it directly into a region that was already saturated from earlier rainfall. The second factor is the ground itself. The northeastern United States, particularly the corridor from Philadelphia through New York City and into New England, is one of the most heavily urbanized landscapes on the continent. Concrete, asphalt, rooftops, parking lots, none of it absorbs water. When rain falls on a forest or a farm field, much of it soaks into the soil. When rain falls on a city at 2 to 3 inches per hour, nearly all of it runs off the surface and into a drainage system that was designed for a different era of rainfall. Urban flood modeling research published in 2025 found that a majority of stormwater drainage networks in U.S. cities now exceed their design capacity during moderate to severe rainfall events. That is not extreme rainfall, that is moderate to severe. The drains were built for storm intensities that no longer represent what these cities actually experience. The result is that water pools faster than it can drain. Streets become rivers within minutes. Underpasses fill. Basement apartments, which across New York City house hundreds of thousands of people, become death traps. That last detail is not hypothetical. It is a pattern that has killed people repeatedly in this exact corridor. In September of 2021, the remnants of Hurricane Ida dropped 7 to 10 inches of rain across the New York metropolitan area. 11 people died in New York City alone, and nearly all of them drowned in basement apartments that filled with water before they could escape. In October of 2025, 2 men died in basement apartments during heavy rains in New York City. On July 6, 2026, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani explicitly urged people living in basement apartments to plan to evacuate ahead of the incoming storms. That instruction, that a sitting mayor of the largest city in the United States is publicly telling residents of basement units to leave their homes before a rainstorm arrives, tells you something important about how seriously city officials now take this specific hazard. This is not a Category 5 hurricane. This is a thunderstorm. And a thunderstorm in this corridor, with this level of urbanization, this density of impervious surface, and this outdated drainage infrastructure, can kill people. Now here is the part of this story that I think deserves direct attention because it connects what is happening this week to a much larger pattern. The year 2025 set a record for flash flood emergency warnings issued by the National Weather Service, with nearly 4,000 of those alerts sent in just the first 7 months of the year. In July of 2025, flash flooding killed 139 people in the Texas Hill Country, making it the deadliest inland flood event in the United States since 1976. In July of 2023, flash flooding across the Northeast killed 11 people and caused $2.2 billion in damage, with the worst impacts concentrated in Vermont and New York. That is 3 consecutive summers, 2023, 2025, and now 2026, in which flash flooding has produced mass casualty events or major infrastructure damage in areas that most Americans do not associate with catastrophic flooding. This is not coastal storm surge. This is not a river overtopping its banks over a period of days. This is rain falling faster than the ground can absorb it or the drains can carry it, in cities and towns where nobody has flood insurance because nobody told them they needed it. FEMA's own data shows that 29% of all national flood insurance program claims between 2014 and 2024 came from properties outside high-risk flood zones. An insurance industry analysis found that more than 50% of flood claims are now occurring in areas designated outside the 500-year floodplain. The people being flooded are not in places the maps say should flood. And standard homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage regardless of where your home is located. That single fact, that the insurance most people carry does not cover the hazard that is now striking the most populated corridor in the country with increasing frequency, is the financial dimension of this crisis that almost no one discusses until after the water has already been in their living room. I want to be honest about what science can and cannot say here, because this is a place where the conversation often slides into oversimplification. No single storm can be attributed entirely to climate change. The storm system sitting over the Northeast today would be a significant weather event in any era. Slow-moving upper-level lows with heavy rain are not new, but the rainfall rates are measurably higher than historical norms. The atmosphere is measurably warmer and carrying measurably more moisture. The number of extreme precipitation events in the Northeast has increased more than any other region in the United States over the past half-century, according to the National Climate Assessment. And the cities in the path of those events are built on surfaces that convert every additional fraction of an inch into surface flooding. The trend is not subtle. It is documented across multiple independent datasets, and the events of 2023, 2025, and 2026 are consistent with exactly what those datasets predicted. If you are in the path of this week's storm, the practical guidance is the same as it was on July 6th. Do not drive through flooded roads. More people die in flash floods in vehicles than in any other setting. If you live in a basement apartment or a ground floor unit in an area prone to street flooding, have a plan to move to higher ground inside your building before water enters your unit. If you see water rising around your home, do not wait for it to reach your door to act. And if you are anywhere in the Northeast and you do not currently have flood insurance, understand that the storm outside your window right now is exactly the kind of event your homeowner's policy will not cover. The pattern is clear. The Northeast is flooding more often, more intensely, and in places that the official maps and the official insurance requirements have not caught up to. The deadliest weather in America this summer is not the heat dome that made the headlines, and it is not the tornado that gets the dramatic footage. It is the water that rises in a city street in 20 minutes, fills a basement in 10, and recedes before the news cameras even arrive. That is the hazard that is growing fastest, killing the most people, and getting the least attention relative to its actual danger. And right now, as this storm continues to push through New England, it is happening again.